Welcome to the shop. I'm Jared and this is Wrench Every Day. And well, we're not in a shop. We are actually kind of tucked back into a tree row on a rainy day to start a new series, kind of mini series, part of the channel. Something I've been wanting to try to do, and I've actually seen some suggestions from you guys wanting to see something like this as well. And well, it needs a name, because right now I'm kind of calling it Project Car Rescue. So if you have a better idea, comment below and tell me what you think we should call it. The whole principle and concept behind Project Car Rescue is to find cars that someone had big dreams or aspirations of, wanting to pull something out, rescue it, and make it something fun to drive. And then life happens and it just sits. Kind of like my Silver Supra, maybe I need my own Project Car Rescue. But what I'm aiming for these first couple cars are a little bit more simple fixes than an entire build. So that's what I've got behind us, our first Project Car Rescue. But before we go into that, let me tell you about today's sponsor, The Beard Club. Guys, it's no secret. Women love beards and we love growing them. Or trying at least. Now, as you can tell, I tend to keep a trim, short beard. Some people have giant, bushy beards, and some of you may like a totally clean-shaven face, and that could be because you're not capable of growing a full beard. But that's where Beard Club has so many tools that work great for everyone. The leader in Beard First men's growth and grooming, the Beard Club literally has a small army of products to help you grow your best beard. Beard Club delivers quality hardware and consumables that'll help you get a better, thicker, and fuller looking beard. If you're not sure what kit you need, you can always take their beard quiz where they will recommend a grooming kit personally tailored for your beard. The highlight of the grooming kit is the PT45 trimmer. It is truly a beard-changing device. There's no painful hair pulling, it's sturdy as hell and has amazing battery life. The growth kit features sprays to strengthen and moisturize your beard hair, oils that prime follicles for optimal growth, and a derma roller that rejuvenates dormant hair follicles. Now, when I picked my grooming kit, I went with the trimming kit because I generally keep a very short, kind of just close to the face beard, 5 o'clock plus shadow. Now the downside is I would generally have very coarse beard hair when it's kept this short, but their beard oils have been amazing at softening both my skin and the hair, making it a little bit more touchable, which my wife has appreciated greatly. Now, if you're ready to go ahead and grow your best beard and take 20% off your first order, head on over to beardclub.com/wrench and enter code WRENCH during checkout. Again, big thank you to Beard Club for sponsoring this episode and sending over some products that are helping keep my beard a whole lot more touchable. Beard Club, over 2 million beards served. All right, so let's introduce you to the first Project Car Rescue. This is a 1973 International Harvester Travelall 1110 edition. There is a lot of truck next to us. This is what International offered for the farmers and families to go to church on Sunday and have a nice vehicle to do it with lots of room and still have all the capabilities of being a farm truck to tow and do the work that you need to during the week. Now for just kind of a quick, condensed version of the International Harvester history. They started making farm implements, moved into making trucks, which then moved into their Light Line series where they had the A generation trucks, a B generation truck, a C generation truck. Then I think it was an R, then an L, C, and D again. It's a very confusing thing, and whoever was coming up with the names, I guess didn't realize there's, a lot more letters in the alphabet. But to make sense of that jumbled letter confusion, let's go to our resident International Harvester expert, Randy Groenhof with GRC Fabrication.
Well, thanks, Jared. International's line of full-size trucks used a series of letters to denote different body styles starting way back in the 20s. They had no rhyme or reason for what letters they used. It was really confusing, even to die-hard International guys. It wasn't until the mid-50s, 1957, when they actually learned the alphabet, and then we had the A series, followed by the B series and the C series, and then the D series starting in '69 that ran in 1975, which is this Travelall that Jared's working on. Those body styles include the Travelall, like this Suburban body style, the Travelette, which was a 4-door or sometimes 3-door crew cab truck, and then their regular cab pickups, of course, and that pretty well covers the full-size truck line. Now back to you, Jared.
Now, one thing that is really unique about this project, a lot of times you don't get the story of the vehicle when you're rescuing it and pulling it out of a tree row or forgotten barn. It's sat for a very long time. What we do know about this truck is it was previously owned by a family that loved the International Harvester brand. They owned many trucks, and this was kind of the nicest, just best of all of them. They took really good care of up until, I believe it was 16, 17 years ago, where unfortunately the father began to develop early onset dementia and the truck was parked. And while it was parked, some wrenching was done to it and it's just fallen into disrepair. And then about a year ago, someone else with a love for International Harvesters found the truck and pulled it out with the big dreams and ambitions of getting it ready and working as basically a daily driver work truck. But again, life happens. I can relate to that. So let's get a closer look at our 1973 International Harvester Travelall and see what it's going to take to get this thing on the road. Well, sometimes when we're off camera, we try to do a little bit to prepare for on camera. And what's really cool about the Travelall is they have these exterior crank windows. It's a real fun feature. And I just pulled it out to make sure it was unlocked. And in doing so, discovered the mechanism was rusted and it broke and dropped the glass. So then I decided, let's try opening the tailgate. There's the nice handle there, and then this lays out. It's a really cool, you know, look and feel on the back of a truck. That's broken too. So when we're doing our rear exploration, we're just gonna have to go through the hole here. And you always want to look for car parts in the back of your vehicles when you're trying to resurrect them, find them, anything. If you're finding, you know, the full accessory drive, a carburetor, anything like that, it lets you know you're in for a not so good time. So what do we have? We have one speaker, we have two speakers, we have a spare rim and tire, which is kind of neat. We've got a Merry Christmas floor mat. I've got pine straw in my hands. We've got a half-eaten, ooh, they might still be in there. There's a smell. There's a rodent chewed paper towel roll, and she has a musk. It's not awful, but it's definitely not good. Think of, you know, your grandma that lives in a 1918 built house. That's what it smells like. You know, like the ceiling, the headliner's drooping down because of the smell. Something that's impressive is just, I don't know if you can get a full grasp of how huge this truck is. There's so much interior space within these Travelalls. It's kind of cool. Now this is equipped with multiple fuel tanks. It had a rear mount fuel tank. It has rear mounted rust, unfortunately, going on. In the world of Internationals, that's minor rust. You don't have to worry too much about that. It's there. We're coming to our back seat. Oh, that's a good sound. So in the back seat, quite interesting, we have a wiring harness that looks like it came from a more modern fuel injection. And I say modern as it has a serial connector. So there may be some unknown history about this truck to have that wiring sitting there. It's something different. Now, something else that's really cool about the Travelalls, one, look how nice the interior is. Like, yeah, we got a sinking headliner, but this was a every option truck when it was new. But these seats, let's see if it'll work, tumble completely flat. This will go down, in theory, may not right now, but doing that revealed we have a radiator cap. That's always good. That's a nice flashlight here. And it's dead. Oh, look at that. How often can you find something that's been sitting that long? I guess it's because it's a mag light. It only works some of the time. We've got some pliers, some ratchet. There you go, a hammer. This is all we need to fix the truck right now. Also, for some reason, those running boards are on it. They're not very attractive, but they're there. Also, these mirrors, not my styling choice, but they're a mirror. You know, they're there to reflect, I guess. But jumping up front, we got some JVC speakers. That's how you know it was quality. But this dash, again, the interior of this thing is so impressive. and so smelly. It needs a really good wash, but there's just, I mean, look at it. It's so maroon, it actually belongs in the 80s. But we come in here, we got a real nice Kenwood head unit, but I think the most impressive thing, you've got the remote for the Kenwood head unit, which I don't know if it has enough range to get all the way back there though. I don't know how far it works, but also going on up here, there's just a lot of wires dangling. We got the vacuum fuel economy gauge. That way you know if you're getting good mileage because of vacuum. Lots of dangly wires, but what is this? That is that wiring harness. This is a Holley projection. At some point in this thing's life, it had Holley projection. That is really cool. That is not a common fuel injection system, and it kind of just goes back along with how much this truck was loved. If they're doing, that's not a good sign, extra auxiliary toggle switches. But for it to go ahead and have that in it, again, you can tell this truck is incredibly loved. Got a key, another unknown toggle switch, you know, it's a thing. And then we got a choke on-off switch, which is kind of different. Normally those are just more or less automatic. We got lights, we got the wipers, push and turn, and we got ourselves a brake controller. I don't know, you know, judging by the wiring, we're not sure how good this might be wired in, but it's there. Oh, look at that. And a clock. I don't know that I've ever seen a factory optioned clock. That is kind of cool. But let us jump into the engine bay and see what we got under there, because I'm hoping the wiring does not look like this. So like Johnny, you've got a little lever to release. I'll tell you what, rain and moss make for a slippery surface. Whew, alrighty. So if we jump in here, we've got an International SV392. 392 cubic inches. It's the same engine that I used to have in Johnny Rev before pulling it out. In the International light line, they had 3 flavors of V8s, a 304, a 345, and this is the big one, the 392. Now, one thing that you can tell is the wiring is a nightmare. There's so much wire for an engine that takes like 2 wires to work. That's gonna be something. But on the positive side, it is a factory air-conditioned equipped truck. On the negative side, it's a factory air-conditioned equipped truck, which makes valve cover gaskets really hard to do. Well, I won't say hard, it's just more work, and they're a little bit problematic when they sit. They like to leak a whole lot. On a nice positive, I'm just saying, there are some headers on this thing. These engines love a free-flowing exhaust, and headers are a great way to get that started and opened up and let them breathe a little bit. So again, there's a lot of nice parts. We've got a Holley MSD ignition box over there. We've got a, that is an Edelbrock square bore. I think that is gonna be a 600 or larger size carburetor, which is way too much for this engine, and they just don't really ever run well with it. So we're gonna replace that with a correct sized carburetor and kind of get into the wiring a little bit. The first step we'll need to do is just see if we can turn this engine over. If we can turn it over, it will start. Something great about the International engines, the SV family, is they are a very low compression engine. They were meant to run on whatever turpentine the farmer had in his tank. So they're like 6.5, 6.7 to 1 compression ratio. Very low compression, so they work all the time. So if this engine turns over, it will start once we fix that electrical. So we're gonna bring some tools over. We're gonna try to turn this engine over, and if it does, I'm gonna start on our new fuel system and fixing the electrical so we can try to get this, wait a second. Going along the lines of really nice parts, that is a hard to find International Mallory Unilite distributor. That is gold right there. And that makes our abilities to start this ignition system, like, it will spark. Those things never die. And And finding that is like a huge, huge thing. And it kind of goes back on along the lines of how much these people absolutely love this truck. There are so many really good parts. The original Holley fuel injection on it, the ignition box, that Mallory distributor, like, I'm excited to get this thing running because once that electrical's fixed, it's gonna be an amazing truck. So again, let's get tools, let's make sure it turns over, and then just get started. All right, the moment of truth. Again, like I was just saying, on an International, if the engine is gonna turn, it will run. A lot of times you can, you know, just grab your fan and turn your engine that way, but unfortunately this is a clutch fan. So yes, the fan turns, but the engine doesn't. So let's get, yeah, it's easy to get to at least. And by easy, I mean not at all. Come on. Oh, there we go. There's a little bit of movement. That's a little more movement. All right, it is turning. Let's make sure we can get it all the way around. This is a good sign. Also, as I'm looking around the engine bay, it's got power steering. Like, this had every option you could put in it. It's got a tow package with auxiliary transmission cooler. Oh, this is gonna be a really good truck. Oh. And it turns, which means it will run. We just need to connect the red wire and a few more things, and I think it's gonna run. All right, so we tried connecting the red wire to the red wire, and we tried connecting the orange wire to the orange wire, and then we tried reconnecting the green wires, but none of that worked. All right, so what we're actually going to do to start making and working on getting the truck to run is, step one, we're gonna replace the fuel system. Not everything down to a fuel tank just yet. We're gonna pull the Edelbrock carb off, and we're gonna install a Holley carburetor on it where we know that it has, again, the right size to fit and work on this engine. We're then going to kind of pull back the wiring. We're not gonna worry about everything right now because it is a mess. We're going to give power just to the coil and the distributor to make it work. And once we are able to actually get it started and running with the fuel pump pulling from a fuel jug, we'll move into installing a new fuel tank and then actually fixing this. This is a nightmare. Once it all works that way, then we're gonna finish up with a full tune-up, plugs, oil change, get fluids done and in it. And then we move on and see what else the truck wants us to do. If the brakes are gonna work, if the transmission's gonna shift and do the things it needs to do, the cooling system's gonna cool. It's just a slow process of, you know, resurrecting one thing at a time though. One, fuel system. Let's get a good carburetor on it that we know it has a chance to run off of with a new fuel pump, and then we'll go from there. All right, so now that I know that the engine turns and we're gonna need some parts like a battery, I've got the International parts delivery guy coming out. This is how you deliver parts?
Every time.
So we now have our Holley 570 CFM cubic feet a minute, I believe that's what the CFM stands for, bolted on. We had to cut the gasket slightly on the secondary that we got for the spacer. We have our fuel lines done up, and I bent up a nice new hard line coming up from that new fuel pump I put in. And that is all connected. We have our throttle linkages and kick down cables and everything set up here, and we ran through our full range of motion, and that's all working. So that's good. We also have our vacuum advance going to the distributor hooked up. One thing we need to check before trying to put power to it is our oil. So let's pull that out, and yep, there is black stuff. Don't know if it's good or bad, but it's there. This also comes with a really unique feature. Normally your dust stops are static, but if you have low oil and you don't want to add any, it's adjustable. You just keep pushing it in to get the reading that you want on the dipstick. So that's forward thinking out of International there. You can just put that wherever you want. Adjustable oil. It has some. So we are going to put a battery in it because I've looked at the wiring and it might be enough to put power where it needs to. The other thing we've done is I don't have a new fuel tank yet, but we do have a hose just looped into a fuel can to hopefully suck some gas up and maybe see if it starts. Fingers crossed. Yeah. So this truck is also equipped with the dual positive cables. So whenever you're coming behind one of these, you want to kind of look and figure out which one goes where. And we were able to trace this to going to the engine block, which means it should be a ground. Should be. Let's drop that down there, good. And, oh, a little spark. Not much of one, but a little one. All right, now let's go see if a key works. I guess maybe you can stay here. I'll see what happens in here. It still smells musty. The radio turns on. I don't see any factory things on, but yeah, nothing. All right, so we went and got a remote start switch since the key is not working. I'm expecting we're not getting power to the coil and everything to actually make it start, but this is gonna let us know if the starter is working and we can actually kind of pump it and prime it enough for the oil pump to pick up some oil the bearings, and we'll see, hopefully, if we're gonna start to get some fuel in the carburetor. Otherwise, I'll have to go and prime the carburetor as well. So, moment of truth. Does it spin? All right, we're spinning pretty good. It's making a nice little song. All right, we don't want to overheat the starter. Next thing we can do is test for spark. Well, actually, we can just check for power, because if we're not getting power, we're not going to get spark. So let me put together the multimeter from the last video, and we'll see if there's power on the coil. All right, so we've got our super fancy multimeter, and we can check across the battery, and we have 12 volts. So now we'll go ahead and check, and we should see voltage on this post of our coil, and there is none. So our next step is we'll go ahead and manually give that some voltage and give it some fuel and see if we're going to get some spark that way. All right, so looking at some of the wiring, there was an additional wire connected to the coil, which shouldn't be. When you're using that aftermarket box, the only thing coming here should be that box. So we fixed that wiring. We're putting power down the circuit that the factory should put, but it gives power to our Unilite and that box. So those should potentially work, and then it'll be kind of hard to see, but in our cranking, we do have fuel through our sight glass, which means the fuel pump is feeding the carburetor, which means we might get it to fire off. If it doesn't, we're then going to have to actually put a spark tester, see if we're getting spark, and then diagnose further if we possibly have a bad box, bad coil, or what's going on. But we're ready to try. So, come on. Maybe we're not quite getting power in through here. Let's clean that up a little better. I do smell fuel. I don't know if that's good or bad. All right, spark tester time. So let's see if this sparks and lights me up or lights up Dwayne or anyone. No. So that means we don't have spark, which means we now got to diagnose through the distributor and through that ignition box and see which one might potentially not be working anymore. So we cleaned the power feed going to the MSD box, and I got spark. We did it off camera, so I figured let's just go straight to maybe running? Or maybe not running. Dang it. But I swear, it just was sparking. Let me check for spark again. Listen, I'm a wimp. I know some of you guys will just hold this barehanded, but I don't like it. So it's sparking. So does that just mean we're that corroded in there? Let me turn the key switch off real quick and check our distributor a little bit more, and then we'll try starting again. All right, so everything in the distributor looks fine. So now we're gonna check and just see if we're getting spark out of plug, because we know the coil's firing. So I got a fresh plug in there, and yep. That's a real nice strong spark too. So now I need to figure out why, because if we're sparking, I wouldn't think the distributor turned out of time, but maybe I'll take a look at the spark plugs that are in it, because we have compression, we have a distributor that's firing, and a good carburetor, so should start. So as I was troubleshooting this, because by my understanding, we have spark, there's fuel in the carburetor, everything is working, phoned a friend and he was like, hey, did you pump the accelerator pedal? Which is the thing you have to do on carburetors. You have to, you know, do the initial cold start prime that I'm used to computers doing for me. And the first couple primes, there were nothing because there's an air pocket. It's all brand new stuff and air gets trapped. So after pumping a couple times, there's now fuel coming out and it might start. So let's see. Let me try giving it a little more fuel. I did say might. Well, Dwayne has gone home and we are continuing to work through our problems. One thing I noticed was my brand new gas. I mean, a couple day old, smelled terrible. And we kind of poured a small sample and tried lighting it on fire and it barely caught on fire. So I had bad gas. So we get some fresh gas and we got it to kind of start to run a little bit. And then it quit and we lost all spark again. So we tried a coil, we've gone over the mess of the wiring, and all the power is going where it needs to go. Wires are connected, they're making connections there. We've done everything we can do to the point of likely determining our 6AL box has died, which is kind of unusual that it died. They're pretty robust, pretty reliable, and its failure doesn't exactly match a traditional failure. So we're trying to find another one so that way I can test it, because I'd love to end day one with it running. All right, so new ignition box has been installed and wired. We still have plenty of wire cleanup to go, but let us see what she will do. That was too easy. And by too easy, I mean We just had to chase through 1,000,001 problems. Come on, well, a little more pumps, but I feel like that's a good way to end the day. It works. Come on. There. Listen to it. Now, acorns. But it's getting dark and stormy, so we'll come back tomorrow and get this thing finished up. Well, good morning. It is day 2 of Project Car Revival, or maybe going to be renamed based on your suggestions if I see something I really like. But we made a lot of progress, and we fought a lot of just silly issues here on our 73 International Harvester Travelall. Who would have known brand new gasoline would be bad? And then of course the ignition box, which makes sense. It's sat for a very long time, and the moment we tried to bring it back to life, it said, we're done. So what I need to do today is we need to go ahead and air up our tires, check our trans fluid, get the electronics working well enough that it will start off of the key. We can now power everything up and turn it off with the key, but it doesn't turn the starter. So we got to get that working. And I have a lot more fuel system parts to go into it, but the ground is incredibly wet and I don't really necessarily want to roll around on the ground. So I actually looked at a map and realized if I cut across a cornfield, it's about a 3-mile drive to my friend's shop, just kind of snaking my way through fields. So that is the goal. We are going to try to get this thing going. We're going to go with a temporary fuel cell, which is also known as a gas can in the passenger seat, and then just drive it through the cornfield to where we're going to finish this thing up. All right, old carburetor. It smells like gas, I wonder why. A couple pumps. Okay. That might have been too many pumps. Yeah, there we go. Oil pressure coming up. Power steering, which is nice. All right, there is a brake pedal. There is resistance. The hardest gear for a transmission to actually engage and do is reverse, because it takes the most pressure and most clamping. So if we're gonna have success, we're gonna be able to put it in reverse, and it most likely, if it moves in reverse, you're gonna have forward gears. So, okay, it took a gear and kind of lurched. It's moving. It is moving, and it's stopping. That's another good benefit. Neutral. She clicks in hard. We might have ourselves a good running truck here. Come on. It's moving. No more Travelall. Are you going to be condemned to just being drug around? You're going to move yourself. It says 82,000 miles. I think that's kind of believable. It might actually have 82,000 miles. All right, so we know we're driving pretty good. There's been a CD sitting here. Let's see what we have, if any of these speakers work. Turn her up a little bit. A little bit of sloshing going on. Little hill climb, let's see. Hopefully we don't run out of gas. Man, this is fun. I like getting things that have just kind of fallen off the road and giving them another chance. And granted, we're not on the road right now, but we're still driving. Again, this thing, it wasn't running. Ooh, that was a little rough. We know for sure, you know, trying to figure out how long it's been off the road. We know for a fact it wasn't running in 1958, and it's probably been about 20 years since it's moved under its own power. And here it is, getting ready to have another chance at life. Just out and driving and having a good time, so. Oh, you don't have to buy new. Find something that you can wrench on a little bit and bring it back to life. All right, and we are here. As you can tell, there's internationals everywhere. We've made it to, I guess you call it Site C, GRC. We're gonna go surprise Randy with what we got here. As I'm underneath the truck, I realized we never really gave you a full tour of how she looks under here. And one, yes, there are mud daubers on everything, and those mufflers are fully blown out. That's why it sounds a little funny. But tragically, the real curse for this vehicle is its amount of rust, and that's what gets almost every international. They just are notorious for rusting very badly. And if you look, we have metal, and that's not rusty metal. That's the carpet. That's, you know, your feet are right about here. This is your rocker. What used to be a rocker. That is totally gone. Just everywhere. And it's so just a bummer to see. There's your rear carpet, right through there. It's sad to see this in this truck because it is such a cool, incredibly well optioned vehicle, and it's now running, driving, stopping incredibly well. But the amount of rust in this thing is likely to condemn it to just a parts runner, and maybe eventually some of its good parts get moved onto something else. But I don't know. We're still going to take our adventure with it. If the brakes fail, at least I know I have EZ access to the ground to apply the foot brake. We have the old leaky tank pulled out, and if that looks familiar, that's because of that's the one I just pulled out of Johnny, gave Randy, and asked to have back so we can get this truck working. So we are going to run just a side tank, and if you also look, there's no more running boards. I was not a fan of these, so we got rid of them. Plus it makes doing our fuel tank a little bit better. Also, the gas that was in these tanks was old, turpentine, and I'm now covered in it and smell awful. It's just great. We removed the lines and we're just blocking off the side tank for now. It's actually kind of like in the quarter panel inside. You access it by pulling a bunch of stuff in there to change those out. They're hard to come by, so we're just gonna run the one. Then in the engine bay, I just set this really awesome Holley air cleaner down to figure out what spacing we would need, make sure it will clear our hood, and I love this. It looks really cool, nice vintage aluminum. And then I've started trying to figure out all of our extra wires so we can start removing them, make sure we've got the wires going to the brake controller that need to go back there, and then just kind of deleting and cleaning up the rest. And once that's done, then we'll clean the whole truck up. We're gonna get everything out of it, vacuum it, and pressure wash it. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of get back to working along and making more progress so we can get this thing going down the road, not just a cornfield. It is morning of the road trip in the 73 Travelall. We've got this truck that has been sitting for so long, running with a trailer hooked up to it to go rescue another car that's been stuck just sitting. I want to get you caught up just real quick to where we're at right now, some of the things we had to do, and I wasn't able to film all of it, is I hooked up the trailer and the trailer lights weren't working correctly, namely the left side, and I got underneath and found where they made the original splices, and then I found an ant's nest in the wiring, and got bit a whole lot, but we got all of our lights working, we got brakes working. It's a cool 48 degrees. Truck is running fantastic. We're on our way to fill it up and fill up some reserve fuel, because this is Johnny's gas tank, and that sending unit has never been the most reliable. So yeah, we're just gonna enjoy some beautiful country drive and go rescue another vehicle. You know it's a good spot when you get a welcome committee. Yeah. Oh man, the truck has done amazing, and we are here. And we're going to give you just a small peek. We don't want to totally give away everything, but as you can tell, we are set to extract this beauty. Maybe beauty is in the eye of the beholder. 1973 Dodge Dart 4-door in pale green. Mopar, they normally had really cool color names. This is pale green. Yep, pale green. So we are going to go through the process. We're going to get this thing pulled out and get it towed back, because we don't want to go too deep into that, because that's not today's video. Our beautiful Travelall is today's video. Got our 73 Dart extracted, and I did try putting air in the tire, but you can tell it wasn't going to hold air because of the way that it is. But it was interesting dragging it with 4 blown up tires, but we got it on. It is strapped down and safe, ready to go. Kind of love the look of it, and it's kind of fun. 73 Dart, 73 Travelall. So now we make a loaded trip back, make sure the truck stays happy, and we'll be back at the shop soon. Just a quick update, as we're nearing the end of the towing adventure, we're catching a little bit of the stop and go. Everyone coming up for North Georgia wine tourism, I guess. The turning of the leaves, the different farms, the corn mazes. Travelall has been doing amazing. I just kind of kept it to about 55. Just, that's what the brakes are kind of built around. Those were the speed limits back in the day. Don't want to risk anything on that side. They've been perfectly adequate. It's just trying to be safe. Not questionable choices does not mean dumb choices and putting people's lives in harm's way. So been handling the stop and go pretty well. The one thing I am feeling is on certain bumps, the floor, the body mounts are hitting my feet through the carpet, where the floor is completely gone. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, I'm dumbfounded. A truck that's just been sitting for so incredibly long is now back on the road, pulling a really cool Dodge Dart. So I'm gonna be able to drive with some speed, so let's get back to driving, and we'll see you guys when we hit the shop. And check it out. We have returned to base. That poor old truck has basically just been sitting. Let's try to find light that's not too harsh. It's just been sitting for years and years and years and years and years. And over a course of a couple days, with a little bit of help from a friend, we got it running, and we went and rescued another car that I'm excited to actually look at a little bit more, but that's later. And this was the goal. We wanted to get this Travelall out and go test it towing. But I have one more idea. The International Harvesters are known, one, the Travelalls for their towing abilities, but two, you can take them off-road. So yeah, we've got one more test for our forgotten Travelall, and we're gonna climb a mountain tomorrow with it. So we'll see you in the morning. It'll be literally seconds for you, but I've got about 24 hours before we get to play with this this amazing truck just a little bit more. All right, so we have two friends with us. We've got Randy and his wife in their D-Series Travelette, and we've got Ridge in a Scout 2, and we are in the Travelall that was in woods, maybe not quite this dense, for a very long time, and we are driving. We've successfully made it through Helen, Georgia, which is a tremendous amount of stop and go. And I kind of feel like if your old vehicle is going to make it through that stop and go and idling for 30 minutes, it's ready to rock. So now we're just enjoying a Forest Service road up Tray Mountain, and we're gonna see what we can find. It's kind of cool that, again, we've got this truck that's just kind of been forgotten and passed on, and it's a little bumpy. That we got it back on the roads. We went and rescued another car, and now we're doing international off-road things with it, which it's cool to save some old stuff. Thought you were his son or something. I mean, you kind of look like a little black bear. The body is so rusted of this truck, it's just soaking up all of this terrain. And somehow, all three have made it to the top. Now, again, there are three because when you take a vehicle that's not gone down any type of road in like 20 years, when you want to test it, it's good to have backup. So we had Ridge driving an Awesome Scout 2, Randy in his D-Series Travelette with a Cummins diesel that would have drugged pretty much anything back down the mountain. But for a truck that has been parked, that we basically replaced the fuel system, new fuel tank lines, the Holley Street Avenger carburetor, we got all new fluids in it, we put the Holley Retro Bright lights, which we will probably need to get back down the mountain as the sun is setting, you know, 1 hour, 2.5 hours up. It's the same difference. So the truck's done absolutely amazing. It is very rusted. Our feet are hit by the body mounts frequently as we are going off-road, but I could not be more impressed with this truck. And that's where our story with the truck will end. Usually there's some type of finality and you want to do something with it. And I want to go ahead and introduce this truck's middle owner from us real quick. So 1 second. So some of the scenes maybe were slightly familiar because if you're not familiar with Randy, this is Randy Groenhof, owner of GRC Fabrication. And you had a lot of dreams for this truck, but unfortunately business kind of kept you from ever actually working on it.
Yeah, the cobbler's kids go barefoot, so we never get to work on our own trucks.
So I was mentioning the idea of Project Car Rescue, and you were like, hey, I've got this cool truck. It does look amazing. Unfortunately, we can't quite show how rotten it is. It just does not translate, but it had really good bones, and you had envisioned it kind of being a work truck for the guys around the shop to do powder coat and a couple other things, right?
Yeah, just a great run around beater shop truck.
Which it's done fantastic for me. I've had a ton of fun getting it running. I went and got another vehicle that I will tinker with a little bit more, and we've gone off-roading with it. And I know I was buying it from you, but
dang it.
I think it will do better with your guys. So
Whoa.
I think I've proven that it works well enough.
How much gas is in it?
So I'm going to go ahead and start on the Appalachian Trail. I don't know that it has enough to get down, and it's no longer my problem. So there we go. That's how we're going to end our first Project Car Rescue. If you guys have a better name for it, this, by the way, this really is the Appalachian Trail. If you have a better name for the series, comment it below. If you've made it this far and you're not subscribed to the channel, I'd love for you guys to go ahead and subscribe, because we do this. We build crazy race cars. We do all kinds of fun stuff. So I'm Jared, reminding you guys to always make questionable choices. And when it comes to old iron, don't be afraid to get it out and do something with it. Bye, Randy.
Bye. This is awesome. It runs. It's alive. It doesn't have a key. Did you leave anything good in here?
Oh, there's
Drinks and pies.
It's cherry pie.
Okay.
Some water.
We have food to get home. Okay. All right. So be it.